Well, what you're about to hear is a recording that Eddie and I just finished, right, Eddie?
Yep, I'm wiping the sweat off my brow because it was a little different than what we usually do.
Do you think that the book was worse or the way we handled the whole show was harder?
Oh, I gotta say the book. That was a terrible book.
It is. And, you know, I would tell people not to download this episode, but they guess they've already downloaded it if they're hearing this part, right?
Yeah, so you might as well give it a listen and tell us if you don't like it by writing us an email at letsreadspiderman@gmail.com.
No, don't have them write us emails telling us they don't like it. I already know they're not going to like it. I mean, it's going to take quite a bit of editing to make this thing sound good. I'm going to be having to put in all kinds of effects.
Oh, I like the effects, James B. So there you go. You're going to get a good episode. Let's remain positive.
You know what? I'll put in one random effect that doesn't make any sense at all, and that will give people like an Easter egg to look for. See if they can find the one crazy effect that has no purpose.
Perfect.
There. Now it's worth listening to. So please enjoy this episode of Let's Read Spider-Man.
Let's read Spider-Man. Let's read Spider-Man. Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
All right, minimize Audacity because I don't need that. I don't need any show notes, which is so weird. I'm going to minimize everything so I don't see anything, to be fair, because I don't want to. If I stumble over things, I'll stumble over it. So, unpause clean feed. Check Audacity. There seem to be about 10 seconds apart. That's fine. Okay. Here we go. Welcome, True Believer readers, to another episode of Let's Read Spider-Man. And here's the guy who always likes to be prepared for his podcasts, my super prepared friend, Eddie. How you doing today, Eddie?
Typically, that is the case. I like writing summaries very much about these Spider-Man comic books. They help me remember every little detail.
So why didn't you write one today?
Well, we're going to try something new today, aren't we, James B?
Yeah, just for this one episode. For those who have not been our guests, this is a heavily pre-produced podcast with a lot of time spent making sure everything is all set once we finally go live.
Yeah, some of our guests, notably Super Marcy, was surprised by the level of preparedness we had for our show. So typically, yeah, there's quite a bit that goes into it.
I know what you're thinking, listener. Really? I assure you, the amount of prep before and after the podcast is enough to make most people not podcasters. But neither one of us has looked ahead to issue 91. And although maybe we'll put sound effects in this podcast and maybe we'll have to edit out a mistake here or there, for the most part, we're going to try to let this one run live. And that entails doing some things we've never done before.
Such as, we're going to read through this live, everybody. I'm trying not to look at the front cover. I'm ready to get the command to look at the cover and the splash page at any time, James B.
Yeah, so what we'll do today is, instead of having the summary pre-written and instead of having all the questions that we're going to ask each other pre-written and even our sponsor copy in front of us, it's all just going to be completely off the cuff and hopefully not too silly. Hopefully we can kind of keep it on track. And Eddie, the format we're going to use is one of us will have to kind of be summarizing, and then the other person might have to add some comments on each one. So I will give you the choice of, do you want to be basically the cover in page 1 would be the first person, and 2 and 3 be the next person. Where do you want to go? We'll take turns alternating.
I want to go first. I'm excited.
All right. So you're going to get the cover in page 1. What you're going to do is you're going to summarize it, and then I'll add a comment or question. And then if you have nothing to say, I'll summarize the next 2 pages, and we'll just keep going like that until the listeners get an amazing summary without, any over preparation.
What if I do this better than our typical summary, James B?
Then all our shows will be Let's Read Spider-Man live and unplugged from now on.
All right, listeners. The Amazing Spider-Man 91, To Smash the Spider. He's trying to squash me. Spider-Man's on a wall picking up a guy in a green suit who I can't really identify. J. Jonah's around. Robbie, Gwen, Aunt May, MJ, Harry. I guess that could be Dirty Pool there. Hey, that's Dirty Pool. And then we open to the first page. It looks like they're burying Captain Stacy. The funeral has occurred so fast. He just died last issue. Wow. Time I thought was moving much slower than this in Spider-Man.
You thought they were going to wait till like the weekend to have the funeral?
So, I mean, when he bumped into the Black Widow, that was like the same afternoon he fought the Kingpin. It's, I don't know. The funeral's got to be a couple days later, at least.
I think the book wants to move on with the Spider-Man stories and not spend a month of issues in mourning. One thing I did notice, though, on the cover is it mentions featuring the murderous menace of the man called Bullit. So I think I might know where we're going. But
oh, there we go.
Good eye,
James B.
As I continue with our summary, Peter is trying to console Gwen, and he's concerned that what would she do if she knew that he was Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson is there, and he's talking to Joe Robbie and kind of almost saying inappropriate things, and Joe Robbie is there being the stand-up man that he always is. But there is a political person named Sam Bullit. Now, I'm not going to say that because his name is spelled exactly like the murderous menace of the man called Bullit, that this is going to be that he's some kind of villain, but he does think the death of Captain Stacy will help him take advantage of his campaign, and that's something that he's looking forward to. Peter is still dwelling on the fact that how much he loves Gwen and how much he's concerned about his secret being a secret, and he remembers that Captain Stacy's dying wish was that Peter look after Gwen because he means so much to Captain Stacy and, of course, to Peter. So we do end with the typical reaction of this scene where Spider-Man is once again blamed for the death of someone, and Spider-Man will be hated forever. Eddie, anything you want to add on these pages?
Just this great line from J. Jonah. Stacy was always a little bit too liberal to suit me. What a jerk at the funeral. Come on, man. And then Gwen, whether he meant to or not, he killed my father. He killed my father. Putting all the blame on Spider-Man.
Yeah, it does seem like kind of a big jump there, but why don't you tell us what happens next?
Peter and Gwen are in a car, I assume, heading home here, and we jump back to like a hard man like Sam the Bullet. Stacy's daughter to see the big man here, so Gwen's going to go see Sam the Bullet, and he's pulling a Kingpin-esque fight scene. He's like practicing karate in a home-built dojo, I guess we could say. And he seems to think Gwen is going to be a great person to take advantage of. So the last panel here has got him putting his finger on Gwen's chin. Gross. Ugh. Talking to Sam the Bullet.
Okay, first of all, his name is Sam Bullit. It's not
Sam Bullit. Sorry,
that's just his name. Okay, it's not
the Bullet. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, and he used to be a police officer, and she's going to volunteer to help his campaign because she wants Spider-Man to be brought in, and she thinks this guy is the guy to bring Spider-Man to justice. That's what's going on here.
I see.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
No problem. It's hard summarizing live, and I have a moment to look around here. Again, she tells him, hey, I want to work with you. He's kind of a jerk to her, too, because he even says Sam Bullit never had any time for liberals or bleeding hearts or big talking, long-haired do-gooders. But, she wants to get stuff done, and he wants to get stuff done. J. Jonah Jameson wants to get in there. And he's willing to help Sam Bullit because J. Jonah Jameson's like, hey, if you're going to deliver Spider-Man, from this minute on, Sam Bullit is my candidate. And guess who is not a big fan of J. Jonah Jameson working with Sam Bullit? That would be Joe Robbie. You can answer these questions, Eddie. We're live,
Joe, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it. Joe Robbie loses his pipe. He's so upset about this, too.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us what happens next?
I'll go on here and figure out what's going on. We jump to Peter, who's watching TV, and he sees Sam Bullit on TV on a show getting interviewed and says Spider-Man is responsible for the death of Captain George Stacy, and until he's crushed swiftly without mercy, none of us are safe. What a proclamation. So we see the newspaper headlines talking about how Spider-Man should be crushed.
He's trying to squash me.
And we get a huge picture of Sam with his fist in the air and a bunch of crushed Spider-Man chants going on with this crowd. Pretty intense ending to page number 9 there.
Yeah, and then he scares everybody about Spider-Man. So when Spider-Man starts hitting the streets are really quiet because everybody's afraid to be on the streets because they think Spider-Man's going to cause their death because Captain Stacy died. And Peter does his old, like, thinking in his head, like, maybe I do cause tragedy to everyone who crosses my path and stuff like that. Eddie, I'm going to stop here for a minute.
Okay.
We're about halfway through this issue, and this seems pretty abrupt that all of a sudden we've got this guy I've never heard of who's going to, clear the streets of Spider-Man and this whole campaign. But Captain Stacy, retired or not, was a big figure. Do you think this is the kind of move someone would make to jump on a tragedy and try to use it to their advantage like this? Do you think this could really happen?
I mean, it's a sign of the times to use the death of a prominent figure as a political tool to get yourself elected. I got to feel really bad for Gwen. It's a really sad legacy to leave behind for Captain Stacy, considering what an upstanding, important piece of the city that he was. A little bit of dragging his name through the mud here. I'm not very happy. Not at all.
Well, you can take a peek ahead at the next page for a second while I just think about the fact that the streets are pretty quiet now. As much as the purpose here is not to really get Spider-Man, and the purpose here is a politically driven one, it does seem to be working. I mean, the cops are walking in pairs and the streets are pretty quiet. I mean, maybe it's scared everybody off the streets. They don't want New York City to be empty, of course, but so far the streets are safe, I guess. But why don't you tell us what happens next?
Wow. What a remarkable campaign this guy is running to really scare people about Spider-Man. So it appears that two criminals here they're trying to go after Peter Parker because they realize he's the person who's taking pictures of Spider-Man. And Sam's in the car. They pull up in front of Peter and get him into the car, kind of strong arm him into the car. Or, well, he doesn't want to get in. Oh, man, they clock him in the face. I jumped ahead a little bit because, wow, very dramatic. Peter Parker gets hit in the face here by one of Sam Bullit's thugs.
Well, that's because he says, hey, where's Spider-Man? He says, even if I knew I wouldn't. And they punch him, and he says, I knew it. He's a rotten commie radical.
Ooh. And Peter says to him, too, here, yeah, that's probably what Hitler said, too. Ooh, he says that to Sam Bullit's face. Pretty bold statement, Peter. Wow.
Well, they beat him up. They kind of leave him, and they say, next time we see you, you better have some answers for us. But he climbs up the building, puts on his Spider-Man suit, and he gets ahead of them and shows up to get revenge on them.
Jeez. Yeah. So he chases down the thug here with using his spider light as kind of a fear tactic, stoking, playing right into the fear that everyone has of Spider-Man at this time. This poor guy in his green suit here, he's really worried that he can't get away from Spider-Man, and he takes his gun and wraps him up.
Yeah, he just basically says to him, you let Bullit give him my message word for word. Didn't really do much for me fighting that guy. But I'm going to go ahead and go back and see Gwendy because he doesn't want her to get mixed up with this Bullit guy. And he flies back to go find her, and Gwen is with Bullit. And when he shows up, he comes through the window. He's going to try to sneak in and change his clothes, but he shows up and she's there with him.
We don't actually hear the message that's for Bullit from Spider-Man, right?
I agree. Nope, he doesn't say that.
Very mysterious.
Yeah, he says, remember when you get back to Bullit, give him the message word for word unless you want me to return and repeat it. But I look back at page 2 and I don't see what the message. Oh, it does. The message is he's just beating him up because he says, I want to make sure you get it straight. So
right.
I'll punctuate
it.
The message is thwap, thwap, thwap. I don't know. I know we didn't spend as much time on this issue as we normally do, but this is kind of a weird one anyway, isn't it?
Bizarre. Captain Stacy dies, and it's like we immediately move on. Peter's reaction, I thought he was going to be raging angry at Doc Ock. Like, I guess Doc Ock got caught after his arms turned on him and arrested and put in jail. But
No, he just got away. He just fled.
with 2 of his arms attacking himself,
Perhaps. Well, he just
how could he? He's got to fight his own arms. I think he's
There's
in jail
no-
again.
just doesn't know. You think Doc Ock's dead half the time and he's alive, and I'm sure he's not. I'm sure he's not in jail. So
We move on way too fast here. There should be much more about the fallout from Captain Stacy dying in all the circles that he was rolling in, I guess.
well, I
Jeez.
I don't know what else is really. I mean, this issue is really just a setup to put Gwen on the side with a villain fighting against Spider-Man, so he really can't
Right.
fight with this guy because Gwen's associated with him, and that's kind of what it is.
Nor can he reveal himself if he intended to, since, I guess he knows that Gwen doesn't know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker also.
Sam Bullit's there with Peter Parker because he says, maybe my friends can drum some sense into you. But don't hurt him, boys. You know how I feel about senseless violence. And then he gets beaten up anyway. So it's sort of like Sam Bullit can say, oh, I told them not to hurt you. So this whole issue is just Spider-Man really getting angry at this guy who they decided to affiliate with Gwen. Can you think of other times that Spider-Man or Peter have had a loved one associated with a criminal?
We got to go back to Betty Brant and her brother, and with Blackie Glaxon, right?
Sure.
Who he was the lawyer. Betty Brant's brother was the lawyer for Blackie Glaxon, and sadly he died. Also, he died from, I think it was a gunshot wound when Spider-Man was trying to help him out on a boat.
Did Betty Brant blame Spider-Man for that one?
She did, of course. He's the fall guy for any bad things that happen.
He just killed Captain Stacy last issue, so.
Is this feeling a little bit like the Tablet Saga when we're talking about the Magia?
I thought you meant, is it like the Tablet Saga because it's not very good?
That's my next one that I was going to say. Where's Steve? We need Steve to come out and tell us about how much he doesn't like this kind of issue.
Steve would be chiming in right now saying, Eddie, you forgot to mention that Doc Ock was living with Aunt May, and that's also another.
That's true. Yes.
Another villain associating with his friends. We hear you, Steve. This issue, so far wasn't my favorite, but you know what is my favorite, and that would be playing games. However, Eddie,
I got one more throwback for you, James, before you transition.
Yeah, sure.
I think I know. Throwback to the olden days here. I think one of my favorite panels is on page 7 in J. Jonah's office. Did you see what was on the wall on page 7, James B?
Why don't you share it with the listener?
It's a big Spider-Man face with a whole bunch of darts in it, like he's been using it as a dartboard. I just like thinking about J. Jonah throwing darts at Spider-Man's face in his office.
Yes, it's excellent.
Joe Robbie's there too.
So, Eddie, you last podcast, you were not super supportive of our of George Stacy's Stacy Incorporated, the sponsor we had.
No, I'm afraid not. I'm not working in my retirement. Sorry, George Stacy, but thank you for sponsoring our episode, George Stacy.
Well, we do have a new sponsor for this episode.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And just like everything else, this is a live sponsor. So
off the cuff.
Of course. Fortunately, they're literally emailing me as we speak, so I can read the copy. It's just scrolling in front of me. And our sponsor this issue is it's the second time we've had a political sponsor, but we recognize.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. It's it's, of course, you can imagine, it's Sam Bullit himself. And Sam Bullit says that he will keep our streets safe. And society today is at a war with the left-wing anarchists trying to destroy our great, proud nation. And that please support Sam Bullit. And he never had any time for liberals, bleeding hearts, or big-talking, long-haired do-gooders. So we would like to thank him for his sponsorship of Let's Read Spider-Man. And we also, Eddie, don't have time for liberals, bleeding heart or big talking long-haired do-gooders. Right, Eddie?
Long hair. It's the long hair that really gets me. I just want to make sure you're okay there, James B. You're not being coerced into the sponsor again. This always makes me nervous when we have a heavily political sponsor on our program. Particularly kind of a shady character like Sam Bullit.
Well, I know he's shady, but he does have the Stacy name associated with him with Gwen Stacy. So, you know, they're kind of working on this together.
All right, let me be impartial. I'm going to have to take a look at his campaign. I appreciate his vigor in campaigning his ideas.
His campaign motto is just simply crush Spider-Man, crush Spider-Man, crush Spider-Man, crush Spider-Man. That I do sometimes think is a conflict of interest.
Take issue with? Issue with?
It's a small issue with a little bit of conflict with what we might be presenting, but everybody's ideas, it takes different people in this country to make it a special place it is. So we appreciate him as a sponsor. So please, everybody check him out and thank him for his efforts. Eddie, I do have a game, and this is not off the cuff. Not for me, but it is for you.
Whew. Oh, boy. All right, here we go again.
Sure.
Well, I did okay on the last one.
Yeah, I mean, except for the Doc Ock one, you actually did, I think, very well, right? So
that's true.
I think you did fine. So Eddie, I have a number of individuals that have appeared in Spider-Man comics.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you for each one 15 seconds, and you're just going to tell me if you believe they originated, their origin story appeared in the Spider-Man comic, or if you think they probably came from another book. For example, if I said J. Jonah Jameson, you would say
Spider-Man.
Yeah, debuted in Spider-Man. If I said Dr. Doom, you would say no, he didn't. Okay?
Fantastic Four. Yes.
Wow, that's even better. If you want to do that, you can. Okay, so I'll just give you a couple, and you'll see what you do. All right? Your opinion. All right, here we go. First one is your favorite member of the Enforcers, Ox. What do you think? Ox.
Debuted in Spider-Man. Yes.
That is correct, Eddie.
Woo!
Ox being the three Enforcers for sure.
Issue 10, right?
Yes, they did. This would be Ox along with
Fancy Dan
and the other dude. Okay. The next one is the Ringmaster.
Oh, I think I know this because I've read Daredevil. I think he was in Daredevil, so not Spider-Man.
You are correct. Did not debut in Spider-Man. He did not debut in Daredevil.
Oh, really?
Daredevil was just in the issue when the Ringmaster came in. He's actually from, I believe, Hulk. You are correct. So you are 2 for 2.
All right. Well, lucky guess. I'll take it.
The next one is Frederick Foswell. Frederick Foswell.
I'm going to say Spider-Man. Yeah, let's put him in Spider-Man.
You're correct again. Frederick Foswell does debut in that Enforcer issue.
Okay. Issue 10.
The Rhino.
Ooh. I'm going to say Spider-Man also. We get a huge amount of backstory about the Rhino. So, Spider-Man.
You're 4 for 4.
All right. Here we go.
First appearance of the Rhino is in Spider-Man.
Mexico.
Vanessa Fisk.
Ooh. I know the Kingpin rolls in lots of different circles. I'm going to say not Spider-Man. I think she shows up somewhere else before Spider-Man.
She actually shows up first in Spider-Man. She is a Spider-Man person. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Wow.
Yeah, it's okay.
I didn't know that.
Blackie Drago, sometimes known as Blackie Drago.
Oh, Blackie Drago, he's in prison with the Vulture. That's where he learns the ways of the Vulture. I gotta say he's Spider-Man. He shows up in Spider-Man?
Correct. He is also a Spider-Man person. Good job.
All right. Good.
Professor Spencer Smythe. Do you recall who that is?
He's the guy that builds the 3 robots that J. Jonah controls, right?
Correct. Yes.
Well, he's not the guy that works for Norman Osborn, too, right? Right, he is? that Smythe that gets killed? I feel like it is. I'm going to say Spider-Man again.
He is also a Spider-Man person. Very nice. You're doing great. You're 6 out of 7.
All right, there we go.
Man Mountain Marco.
Oh. So there's a Silvermane in the Tablet Saga. Magia. I'm going to say no for Man Mountain Marco, but
He actually
like
is
I
a
could be wrong.
Spider-Man person.
oh, okay,
The
all
book
right.
we read is his appearance. Yep.
On the cover, huh? Ugh.
We're going to go with Ned Leeds. Good old Ned Leeds, the one who hangs out with Betty Brant.
He's got to be in Spider-Man. First appearance in Spider-Man, yes.
It's correct. He's in issue 18. Yep.
Yeah,
And
very
the
early on.
The last one is Miles Warren. Do you know who that is? He's a professor
Miles
at the...
Warren.
He's a professor. He appears as like a teacher in the school, in the colleges and such.
He's the one that's always like, Peter, you're falling behind in your grades.
Correct.
I'm going to say he's also Spider-Man. I don't see why else he would be somewhere else, but I don't know.
You did a great job today. You got 8 out of 10.
Right.
Couldn't
All right.
tri-
Thank you, James B.
I couldn't trick you with any of those people. They are, with the exception of the Ringmaster, all Spider-Man first appearance people. So of that group of people we talked about, Ox, the Ringmaster, the Rhino, Blackie Drago, Man Mountain Marco, Frederick Foswell, Ned Leeds, Professor Spencer Smythe, Professor Miles Ward, and Vanessa Fisk. Which one of those would you like to see more of?
I'll bring the Rhino back. He was a curious adversary.
What'd you like about the Rhino?
Yeah, I liked. You know what my favorite part about the Rhino was? When he was one of the first characters that decided to draw Spider-Man out by causing like public chaos and havoc. I know Doc Ock has done it before, but for being kind of supposedly a dumb character, that was a pretty clever plan. And I don't know. He's just kind of the most interesting. You know, I like the characters that are curious in appearance. What about you, James? You got one?
Well, I know you don't like Ned Leeds that much, but
No.
but I'm always looking for more Ned Leeds action. Now, I do know there will be some more Ned Leeds stuff going on in the future, but right now,
Right.
I'm always like, give me some more Ned Leeds. You get this guy right there. Do something with him besides having him take coffee breaks all the time. Like, let's go. And Ox can punch people while eating an apple. And
Yeah.
That never gets too old for me. So, all right. As we wrap up this episode, we had our little game time there.
Yeah, thanks, James B.
Oh, you're welcome. You did great as usual. Any other final closing thoughts about this issue you want to squeeze in?
No, I don't think that went too bad. That was okay, right?
Yeah, well, it was okay. Let's see if we can do the close. Go ahead and
Okay.
tell the listeners where they can find us.
You can email us anytime at letsreadspiderman@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter at Let's Read Spidey.
Right. And now it's time for the close.
Your turn, James B.
And remember, listeners, if you want to send a message about beating somebody up, just beat them up a bunch of times. And then say, give this message word for word. Even though there's no words.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I mean, at this
I always
point,
think he's a menace. I agree with you. He's always...
Spider-Man, the real kicker for me is letting the Kingpin off the hook. That was like, I don't trust him at all anymore once he let the Kingpin off the hook. That is not right. That guy's terrible.
And then he's 6% responsible for the death of Captain Stacy. This guy is... We're on the wrong side of this. We should call the podcast Let's Arrest Spider-Man.
It's time.
Well, maybe we're just reading for, we're hoping it. We're going to keep reading until he gets arrested. So there you go. Although he's been in prison before, but he got out in that riot back in the...
No one seemed to be paying attention.
Nope.
When he got out.
Nope. So,
Do you think this is Dirty Pool again? I was going to look up Dirty Pool. He's in I think Dirty Pool's in a green suit.
Well, all the villains are in greens and purples. That's not like that big a deal.